Hey,
but
how's it
just
going?
doing a quick countdown. Not too shabby at all. Right, so welcome to Talkin Con, Cup of Tea with Englishman in San Diego. So this is a countdown just to get everyone settled. If you are watching this almost instantly, that does mean that you are a subscriber to our YouTube channel, which is fantastic, which means you've got your notifications turned on as well. Thank you so much, Vindy, for that. Thanks for all the support. As always, if you do like the chat that we're going to get into, like it, comment on it, spread the word, let everyone know that we're here each and every Sunday between 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. I am going to very quickly as well go to my Facebook because I haven't upgraded the way that it all shares. So it only sends the video to my Facebook personal page, which means if you follow me at Leonard Sultana or facebook.com leonard.sultana, then the video is up and running, and indeed you can comment on that now. It's public, it's shared, so please do spread the word and send that to wherever as well. So yeah, any way that you can kind of let everyone know that we do this, that we get up to a little bit of con community group chat each and every week. In fact, twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, where we kind of talk comics, talk the industry, talk the community, talk creativity. We've got one or two things we're going to do at the end as well. We've got a giveaway we're going to do. It's going to be a pretty packed show. So all well and good. But we'll get started about 60 seconds. As always, any comments, anyone that wants to jump in and say hi, Michael P already is welcoming everyone. Good morning, all.
Hey.
He's in sunny San Diego. So thank you very much indeed for jumping in, Michael. Any other comments, any other questions, as always, do let us know, especially to, I guess, if we say something that you want to comment on, jump in with that as well. Andrew English, hello all from London. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to you, sir. Righty then. What else? Yes, we're getting close as well to the May Patreon pay, which I believe happens on the 6th. We've got one or two new Patreons. Thank you very much indeed for supporting us, as always. It's a pleasure to have you along. We try our best to put some exclusive stuff on the Patreon page. We did put that Double Clicks live album up on there. So yeah, any support, we really do appreciate it. And yeah, we do actually have a supporters list, which I might just put up in a bit and just kind of let everyone see what we're up to. But there we go. Right then, hello there. It's top of the hour, just shortly after, but it is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. GMT. This is Talkin Con, a cup of tea with an Englishman in San Diego, Leonard Sultana, and this is where each and every week talk comics, cons, con culture, and all the stuff and nonsense that we get to enjoy at the shows. As I did say, it is kind of like a community kind of thing, so it's a way of people to come together in the absence of the shows that we would love to usually go to in the summer. I'm with Michael P. Me too on Comic Con withdrawals. Yeah, I'm safe to say I'm getting in that direction as well. It's starting to get a little bit get awkward. Andrew English, I'm getting Comic Con withdrawals as well. I'm sure we all are. It's just getting it's very awkward at this point. I appreciate it, but that's where we all come together on these shows, just to kind of talk it all out and get into a bit of a community spirit. And also it's fantastic guests on to talk about said community and said withdrawals, because we've got three fantastic guests, three fantastic guests. One's going to be joining us later, David Walters, who's going to be talking about his new Kickstarter and his career as well. But we have ourselves David Molowski. Hello, David, from A Place to Hang Your Cape. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, had a pretty good weekend.
Excellent.
You know, lots of parties.
Yeah, I mean, were these Zoom parties?
Of course.
Yes. My other half is currently suffering because she and her old schoolmates decided to meet up last night, and at 2:30 in the morning, she staggered into bed, absolutely wasted. But you know what? I think she was overdue a bit of a blowout. So no, I totally understand all of that. And we've got Alasdair Stewart joining us as well. Alasdair,
Hey.
how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Excellent stuff. It's a pleasure to have you both joining us. I think the first things first is just to kind of introduce yourself, because I follow you two on Twitter. I think you're in the same kind of boat I am. We kind of all support the communities and the artists and creatives that we do the best we can. But I think it's best if everyone just kind of is introduced to you, if possible. So I think we'll start with David first. You've got a kind of like 30-second elevator pitch. Who is David Molowski?
So I am the editor-in-chief of A Place to Hang Your Cape. We are a comic book and superhero website, very much a Comic-Con website, on a website. We do a lot of what we do is supporting indie comic creators. We do a lot of reviews and interviews with them. We also have our podcast, Podcapers, found where any good podcasts are found. And we basically help out the comic book scene. A lot of what we do is just helping creators promote their stuff because it's great work and we'd like to chat about it.
Because I mean, the accent might throw one or two people off because you're based here in the UK, aren't you?
Yes, I am in I was going to say sunny London, but it's a bit great today.
So it's very much the UK indie comic scene that you support, because I mean, the work that you do in highlighting what comic creators are doing here in the UK, not necessarily the main publishers. It's very much those people that are striving out on their own and telling their own individual stories. I think that's very much what you're all about. Alasdair, explain yourself. Give everyone a bit of an introduction to
Justify yourself. Of course. Hi, I'm Alasdair Stewart. I'm professionally enthusiastic. You can find me in two primary locations. The first is I co-own a fiction podcast company called Escape Artists. We produce 4 shows, each one of which includes a complete or serialized piece of genre fiction in a different genre every week for free. Escape Pod does science fiction, Pseudopod does horror. I host that one. Podcastle does fantasy, and Cast of Wonders does YA. We have been around 15 years. My partner and I have owned the company for the last 5. We have just over 2,500 episodes in the back catalogue, all for free. And it's the best and weirdest job I've ever had. The other thing I do is I'm a freelance journalist and also a tabletop RPG designer, although that's a little bit on the back burner at the moment. I've worked for sites like Tor.com, Sci-Fi Bulletin, Sci-Fi Wire. You can find me most regularly at the moment on my newsletter, which is called The Full Lid, which releases every Friday at 5 p.m. and is just a collection of stuff I've seen and enjoyed or found interesting across the course of the last week. I'm actually also Hugo. I'm a Hugo finalist again this year. I'm a finalist in the Best Fan Writer category, and Escape Pod is a finalist in Best Semi-Prosy. So this whole, hey, things are good shtick I had is actually working quite well.
Well, I mean, I think that's the reason why I wanted to get the pair of you on, is because at the end of the day, you are very much, if not enthusiastic, or you are professional fan appreciators. You are people that go out all out to support and encourage the communities that you are involved in. But everything seems to be a little bit on hold when it comes to the way that our particular fandoms are going at the moment, at least on the marketing level, or at least on the getting the product out to people level. When it comes to creativity, it seems that this is kind of also being a little bit of a boiling pot. I just wanted to basically have you both on to kind of find out what your tone or what your feeling is about the way that the lockdown has affected the communities. I mean, David, what's been your take on indie creators? Because I get this nasty feeling, well, not a nasty feeling, I just get this sneaking suspicion there's going to be a lot of COVID babies out of this. There's going to be a lot of Kickstarters, a lot of Etsy stores, and a lot of stuff that people are putting together. They're kind of like stuck at their drawing tables. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, my sidekick Fred has started writing a comic, and I almost did the other day. So I think that's just goes to show how creative people are getting right now. but yeah, I think from what I've been seeing is a lot of people are sort of at the production stage. We're seeing a sort of a slowing down in the number of reviews that we get. There's definitely not as many Kickstarters coming into us. We used to get like 5 or 6 a week. Now we're getting, I think we got 3 emailing us in the last month to promote. Yeah, I think it's sort of like with films. There's not a lot new happening, but it's all sort of simmering below the surface. And I think, like you said, it's the distribution angle that's sort of becoming the big problem right now, and the marketing and all that sort of stuff.
Do you think as well there's this element that people aren't wanting to launch that many Kickstarters right now, which is why I've set up a feature at the end of the show to showcase those new Kickstarters, which are launching in this particular moment, because it is difficult to go cap in hand to people when money is tight, when the income's not coming in, perhaps the furlough money hasn't arrived in the bank account. Things are very much a case of you are wanting to put money into putting food on the table. It's really awkward to kind of ask for money at this point. So I kind of get what you're saying when it comes to the creativities there. I find it interesting that the Kickstarters have dried up that much.
Yeah, I mean, so we had a few campaigns that we were going to be supporting and featuring on Podcapers. We do have a few that are actually going to be live this month. But around April, we had a few that had like contacted us and been like, yeah, we want to do some promotion with you, get on the podcast, do all that sort of stuff. And then like 2 of them, I think, just emailed and were like, look, we're canceling them. We're just going to hold off until things, settle down a bit. And I think it kind of makes sense in this climate that, like, it's like you said, that it's really hard to ask people for money right now. But what we're seeing on the other end of the spectrum is a lot of people are giving their comics away for free as a form of promotion, which is sort of the anti-Kickstarter, I think. But you are seeing a lot of free comics floating around out there.
Sure. I'm also seeing a lot of kind of microtransactions as well. Things that are dropped in price. I mean, the one that we have been really supporting here on the show is Rachel Smith's Quarantine Comics. The fact that she's been
just about to bring up, I'm so glad that you're a fan of that.
It's just absolutely fantastic. It's just been great to see that she's putting out those, like you say, for free on her social media, but also selling the originals at £15 or whatever they are. Yeah. So, the originals are going out, but there's this constant rolling of content. But Alistair, what's been your take on the kind of talk and the chatter when it comes to, because we're all kind of talking this way, we're talking virtually, we're talking in podcasts, we're talking live streams. Are you seeing a lot of collaboration as well?
Bits and pieces of it. I mean, the perspective I've got, I'm an ex-retailer as well as doing all of this. So the perspective I've got is that I'm a little bit connected to that side of things. And I'm seeing a lot of retailers who are doing a really good job of hunkering down. And I mean, especially in the UK, because, and I will be careful how I phrase this, because of recent choices Diamond have made, UK and international retailers have been unusually hung out to dry in an industry that has entirely been hung out to dry. And I've seen a lot of small scale retailers. Like I'm based in Reading. My local is Crunch Comics, and they've been doing great. They've managed to transition to mail order. They've got a lot of regular customers who are basically going, this is how much I can spend a month. Here's the back catalog items I want. Please just send me that until things come back on stream. So from a retail point of view, the industry has done, from my perspective, a really very good job of triaging itself. Here's what we can and can't do. Here's how we can keep going until that changes. In terms of creators, I'm seeing 2 things, and they're both really interesting. First is, the impression I get is there is an awful lot of back-channel collaboration going on. There's an awful lot of people going, well, we can't do this now, but can we do this in a year? And your point about projects which are COVID babies, I think you're going to see a very long stream of those. I find myself, as I suspect we all do, thinking an awful lot about what the world is going to be like when this is done. And especially from a cultural point of view, I think there is just going to be this incredible 6-month concentrated scream of all the stuff that's been delayed or has had to be finished late, and it will all just hit one after the other across all these industries. And I'm going to be really interested to see what comics looks like then. Now, putting my revolutionary hat on a little bit, the other thing which this has started to enable an awful lot is basically taking the power out of a distributor's hands, which, given that we have what is legally not a monopoly, I hope you can hear the letters on that, it can only be a good thing. I mean, initiatives like Quarantine Comics, initiatives like Panel Syndicate, are really, this is their opportunity to come into their own. And I've been very heartened to see how many people have been signal boosting stuff like them and stuff like Rachel, as creatives have essentially, there's no way of saying this without sounding pejoratively angry. And I'm not in a position to sound pejoratively angry, but it does sound pejorative. Functionally, every creative in this industry has been cut loose. And it's been really heartening to see how many of them have gone, okay, time to knit my own parachute. And seem to be succeeding.
No, that's pretty much what I've seen. Well, I've been really curious that I haven't. I mean, you're saying that you're seeing a lot of collaboration going on. I'm kind of seeing more people realizing that they have got very limited windows when it comes to the support systems that they have. That those support systems don't necessarily protect them. So I'm seeing a lot of creators kind of becoming a little bit insular and finding out what they can do on their own, if that makes sense. I'm curious to see if this extends any further, whether we're going to see more, like you say, more people talking, so like online and kind of bringing stuff together. But I think the kernels of those ideas are there. It's interesting you're talking about the comic book retailers as well, because I mean, we've got Jared from OK Comics who's going to be coming on Wednesday. I mean, I had a bit of a chat with him this morning, and he was basically saying that the way that he's dealing with it is almost not saying head in the sand, but it's more a case of, okay, I can't do anything about this. I can't really, because at the end of the day, I can only really do what I can do with what I've got and what's coming in to the store. Which there are some books which are starting to arrive on his doorstep. So he's having to go in and sort those out and do that mail order wise. But I mentioned about Marvel, talking about their ramping back up of their distribution, talking about DC taking on these new distribution models. And he said, I have not paid any attention to that. To be honest, I'm just all about this. I just want to get the store as protected as possible, because thankfully he's in a relatively stable state that the store will open pretty much back up to speed and can happen rather quickly. But I'm seeing the talk of a lot of comic book stores that will suffer from this and close. David, I mean, around your neck of the woods as well, I mean, what's the comic book stores around your area, and what are they kind of dealing with? Because I mean, you've got the ones in the town centre, which I'm guessing are closed, but what about the smaller stores?
I mean, the one that I usually go to is Orbital, which is in Central, and I've been checking their Twitter probably every couple of days, and there's just been nothing. I haven't really reached out to many of them, but from what I hear, I think everything's just closed. I don't know if there's much, if the general attitude is much different from what you just said about your friend, but I think that the main issue that a lot of comic book store owners are dealing with is the fact that this is encouraging so much more digital readership of comics, and if people start getting used to getting digital comics and actually start getting converted to digital comics, and that sort of is, that's where I think the real danger is of their businesses getting undercut by that form of distribution.
Understandable.
There's an interesting corollary to that as well, which is after the hilarious Comixology price gouge of a few weeks ago.
The timing of that was just ridiculous.
Hilarious, yeah.
I've worked in PR and comms a little bit, and I would teach how that was rolled out as how not to do literally anything. I was astounded by that. But I haven't run the math fully on this, but now that ebooks are 0 VAT, their prices have come down a little bit, but they've only come down a little bit. Most of the gouge is still in place. So I think physical copies are actually still cheaper if you can get them. But I would have to
I
look
think
at
that's the key point. I mean, on the other end of the spectrum, if you look at what Comic House's response was, which is they gave away, I think it was 2 or 3 months free to any new user.
Wow.
I think that's the way to win over new customers.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got one or two people that are jumping in with some comments. Michael P. Michael P, by the way, he's based on the West Coast. He is, I believe he's San Diego based, and he's saying our local comic book stores closed. Andrew Dickinson talking about the creators putting stuff out and basically reaching out to the customers directly. A lot of pay what you want. Which is what he's seeing, which is rather cool. Into the Blue Mister, I think this is more of a personal thing to Alistair, earning bonus points for having a TARDIS on his shelf. Yes, I mean that is a hell of a nerd shelf there, sir. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what else we got? I mean, obviously one or two people talking. Oh, Colorado, sorry, is for Michael P. Sorry about that. One or two people talking about New York Comic Con, but we'll get into that in a bit. Andrew Dickinson, there's been a couple of specific hits on stores, I believe. Patriot Games in Leeds got all of their high-value Magic cards stolen, which is painful. That's just not on, obviously. And Andrew Dickinson, do comics pay VAT? I thought they were 0 rated.
Books have paid VAT up until about 3 days ago.
Okay, Alistair, I don't know if you want to just very quickly sort of like just wave your hand in front of your laptop or your camera and refocus it. Oh.
I'll just move further away. It's fine.
That's fair enough. Okay. So, hang on. So no, just the messages are coming in. I keep clicking on by accident. So, bear with me a second. So, in terms of the way that the industry is going to look on the other side of this, I mean, David, you're talking about digital there. We talked to from IDW, and we basically talked about how that business is going to look at the other end. And he was very much approaching it from the perspective of what DC have said, is that they feel that the digital and the print businesses are almost two separate subsections of their comics industry, in that they feel that print will never go away because there's very much the collectors and the speculators that are very much wanting to get physical books in their hands. Alistair's absolutely struggling with the phone.
Don't mind me. I'll be blurry in art house cinema for a bit. It's all good.
We should get drunk and we'll be blurry as well. So I'm curious to what you feel that the other side of the of all of this could possibly look like. You're feeling that digital could be, I mean, the way that you're talking there is it's very much a threat that digital could take over print.
Well, I think that, yeah.
Go on.
No, I think that it's exactly what you said. I think that it's been what we've seen in so many different industries. You know, newspapers probably being the best example of, you know, digital overtakes print. I think that at the end of the day, a lot of people still prefer to read a comic in their hands that they can hold and feel and smell, and that there's definitely something to that. But for me, I do read most of my comics digitally, even though I do prefer to read I would prefer to read hard copies, but I mostly get them sent to me as PDFs because of my work, and that's how I read most of them. And having gotten used to that, there are now comics that when I think, oh, am I going to buy this? I may just buy it digitally because that's how I'm used to reading it. And I think that if you start getting thousands of people sort of trained in the same way for months to start reading digital comics, that's what's going to keep happening. And I think that's where that sort of threat comes in. But I would say that print comics are going to go anywhere. I just think that I think that where we're going to lose out could be the stores, that having that dependability that people are definitely going to want to have their pull list every week sitting there in a box waiting for them, that they're going to be willing to make that journey in, that they're not going to, you know, want the convenience of, oh, I can just download it on my phone, and if I want to get the physical copy, maybe I'll just pick up the trade in a couple of years.
Sure. Do you think, and this is to the pair of you, when the lockdown is lifted, which we're looking at, that our governments are on both sides of the ponds are wanting to do sooner rather than later, even at the risk of further infections in that second curve, they're under pressure from their economies. They're wanting to open the doors again. We are pretty hardcore fans. And we will walk into fire for a lot of our own fandoms. Do you feel that we will be just kind of beating on the door to get back into our comic book stores? Or do you think there's going to be a little bit of an air of caution there? Alistair?
I think there's going to be an air of caution. One of the things which, one of my oldest friends is an entertainment journalist in Austin. And there was a story that circulated in the US a couple of days ago about how Austin's cinemas are set to reopen. And one of them is, maybe two. The vast majority of companies and the vast majority of punters have made it very clear that, no, I'd like to not roll the dice to see whether I'm going to become life-threateningly ill to go see Bloodshot, thanks. I mean, yeah, Bloodshot's fun, don't get me wrong, but it is not something I would want to risk my life for. And I would very much like to think that there's a measurable percentage of people who feel the same way about this. And I mean, I am fundamentally optimistic, and I can't help but wonder whether or not what we're looking at here is ultimately kind of a trifurcation of the industry, that there will be, as you say, the kind of increased foothold of digital. There will also be the people who just want to go into a store and talk to someone for 15 minutes or 6 hours, as one of my old customers used to do, and then buy their comics and leave. And then there'll also be folks who will just stay on mail order. I love the post. I love getting things in the post. I am unbearable about it. I get excited when I get things in the mail. And I wonder whether what we're looking at here is something which ultimately is going to be really positive, which is an awful fucking thing to say at times like this, I know. But Diamond were a monopoly. They, in all but name, they can't be now. By definition, they can't be. And that means that things have to be different. And that means that things have to be more spread out. You can't have a stable industry based on an individual supplier of anything. And my sincere hope is that what we're going to see after an inevitable period of tremendous pain and uncertainty in a lot of ways is an industry that's more stable and more viable, where there are 3 or 4 different distributors all working to get the same stuff to stores, where stores have a dedicated clientele, where hopefully Comixology would look at rolling back out something like the old digital shop front they used to have, where you could buy your Comixology titles through your local comic store. And like I say, my sincere hope is that ultimately the industry comes out stronger and more viable from this, because Diamond has, and I say this with the utmost respect, I know people who've worked there, but Diamond has been the waiter, the thing that has been handcuffed to the ankle of the industry for decades. And now it's not. And what follows has to be different, and hopefully will be better.
David?
Yeah, one thing I was going to say is just following up on if we do start seeing more stores stay alive, and we then see the bigger names at least decreasing the amount of print, we may start seeing more shelf space for indie comics, or at least maybe that's my very, very optimistic hope. At least, but if it, I think that indie comics still will always be in print, one way or another. As long as the Comic Cons come back, we'll have a way.
Well, that was going to be literally, but the next thing I said, because obviously with indie, it is a case of the best way to get their comics into the hands of people and to get the attention is at these shows, which is very difficult. And we've been talking a lot to indie creators, and just seeing that revenue stream, not only with the money that they put out to cons throughout the summer, which is not going to be coming back, but also then to get those sales as well. It's just been disheartening, which kind of then asks the blanket question, and I'll just throw it out and see what the response is. Should comics have a union at this point?
Yes. I think much like professional wrestling, comics should have had a union about 5 decades ago.
David, I mean, at the end of the day, indie creators have been hit so hard by this.
I would love to see that kind of protection. I mean, my father was a union man. I'm all for it. Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
Well, I ain't gonna do it, but I think it's certainly it's just the chatter of people being creative for creative sake because they just feel that they've got nothing else to do. They've got nothing that they've almost been felt abandoned. I mean, you were talking about this earlier, Alistair, but there is that kind of that sense that people have just been felt a little bit cut loose. And the longer this goes on, I mean, people are talking about 2020 being a wash, which that hurts. But that, I mean, it's, I mean, just to explain, I'm in a totally different industry. I work as a mobile DJ, which means my income relies on getting people in front of me in a crowd. That's my income gone, and I'm having to accept now that's for the rest of the year, pretty much. And I think comic creators are feeling a similar kind of hit because they are sensing that this is not just going to be middle of May. Okay, wow, Marvel and everyone's getting comics back out into stores. That's not going to be the end of it. There's going to be more of it. Toby has jumped in with a comment. They did get a hit from the lack of Diamond's presence. Still haven't got a ship. Oh, right. This is from a comment from me said earlier. My comic store is still running comics and stuff, although their current MO is to run business at their front door through the screen door. Social distancing and all. They did get a hit from lack of Diamond's presence. Haven't got a shipment for all of April. As far as I'm aware from Jared, it's a case of there's just going to be this deluge of books that were due to be coming through the door around that time.
Yeah, it's like the same as all the films, is what I understand.
Well, indeed. Into the Blue Mist. If newspaper creatives, journalists, editors, designers can be in a union, why not comic creators? I think it's exactly. I think at the end of this, it's going to be only a matter of time before we start seeing something. But comic creators are not necessarily ones for actually coming together, if you know what I mean, in one big block. So it's finding somebody who will actually step forward to actually organize it. We've seen efforts where people have tried to step forward and organize something, and then it kind of gets shot down. So we'll see if someone actually has the forward momentum to actually make it work. Go on, you were saying, David.
Yeah, sorry. There was the comic summit in I think 2017 or 2018, led by John Locke of Big Punch Comics. He got I think about 50 creators together for essentially a convention only for creators. It's a step in the right direction.
Fair enough. And Andrew English is saying Alistair is the only person who likes receiving bills. If that's what you want to get through your mail, sir, fine.
Bills, not so much. Exciting, squishy packages with things in them, those I'm all about.
In terms of yourself out there, Alistair, then obviously the coming together, which is kind of a big part of the communities that you're part of. Can you see those becoming more online? And the reason why I'm bringing those up is also for ourselves, David, Comic-Cons having virtual presences, of which, I mean, this weekend I counted 4, of which that was fun to try and keep a track on all of those on the various platforms. Do you think that the online presence, it's just going to be so much more of this stuff coming out?
Yeah, I do, and it's one of those kind of bitter ironies of this whole situation, where I'm very, like I say, with the podcasting, I'm very involved in kind of the genre publishing side of things as well. And there are 2 big conventions in that community. There's the Nebula weekend, and there's Worldcon, where the Hugo Awards are given out. And last year there was a lot of discussion at the Nebula weekend about how there was a streaming room where every panel, those involved signed consent forms, the audience signed consent forms, and it was streamed. And there was a very long conversation about how do you feel comfortable about this? Authors who weren't entirely comfortable speaking on the record, because obviously the record of it lasts as long as YouTube is up. And that felt very much like stage 1 of a conversation, and that entire community and comics as well are now having to do stage 5. I mean, Worldcon this year is in New Zealand, and they've gone entirely virtual. They're going ahead. That's a 5-day event with 12 hours of programming every day, which people are going to be attending virtually. I have no idea how that's going to work. I can pretty much guarantee you a third of it won't work at all. And I can absolutely promise you that the other 2/3 will be full of solutions to problems no one has seen coming. This is, as you said at the top of the hour, a boiling pot. This is where a lot of new procedures for years to come and new ways of doing this stuff are going to be developed. And in the short term, it's going to absolutely suck quite a lot of the time. But the stuff that's going to come out of it is going to be amazing.
I'm really curious to see how that convention is going to work, considering that, as far as I understand, while it is virtual, it ain't cheap. As far as I'm aware, I mean, we're seeing a lot of free conventions. We're seeing a lot of conventions raising money for charities. The virtual cons, what I'm talking about here. We had Wales Comic Con just happened this weekend, which was raising money for NHS. But Worldcon, isn't it something like $150 or something?
Yeah, Worldcon has
an insane amount of money.
And Worldcon has kind of striated levels of membership. You can be a member but not attend. You can be an attending member, all this kind of stuff. And I know that I seem to remember they're looking at slashing prices for a lot of stuff to compensate for the fact you can't physically be there. But yeah, that's one of these big questions all these industries are having to deal with at once. If something goes virtual, then what is the worth of a virtual event balanced against a physical one? And, you know, purely in logistical terms, you've got, well, the good news is we don't have to have the venue. The bad news is we don't get the income. The good news is lots more people can attend. The bad news is they're 12 hours away on the other side of the planet. And you're going to get that there is going to be some kind of epic how-to manual coming out of this, which is just going to feel like Apollo 13. I'm quite convinced.
Oh, God. Fair enough. In fact, I mean, the way that I was going to be doing this show was we're going to be talking to you two and then transitioning to our next guest. But it might be worthwhile bringing Dave, B. Dave Walters, into the conversation because, hello there, first and foremost. Hello there. How do I address you, by the way? Is it B. Dave, B? How do I say your name, sir?
It's true. Like a smoke bomb should go off. And I should jump out of stage like Michael Jackson.
Well, you're doing that. I'll try the tried and true IT technique of turning my camera on and off again. I'll be right back.
Go for it. Go for it.
Dave is fine. I know that my showbiz name is B. Dave Walters, but we know now that we're talking, I know you mean me. So
fair enough.
Also, if it's out of if it's out of focus, snap your fingers near your face. It'll target on the motion and zoom in on you, or at least it should. Yeah.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
That was a bit of a hint and tip for you. Although it looks like is your sound now working, Alasdair? He now can't hear us.
It's doomed. Can be seen or heard. Yes.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, the question I was going to ask you, Dave, is about virtual conventions. While we're on that topic of conversation, have you had your invites to any virtual cons yet?
Oh, I've already done like 10. And everything that you were, I mean, it's every day of the week. I'm doing one Wednesday, Jasper's Game Day. That is extended to Jasper's Game Week. Was supposed to be a live event in Burbank about a month ago. Now it's virtual. Did virtual Gary Con, virtual Horror Con. I still have later in the year some live events that are booking us under the pretense that society will have restarted by then. But, you know, I put the odds at 50-50, really. Yeah. And in everything you said, it has flattened things and widened things where more people can do it, but it is harder to monetize. It does have a lower barrier of entry to get in, but there might be less to show for it in the short term. Yeah. And I think it's going to, unfortunately, I think it's going to eradicate a lot of the smaller players in the stage right now. But I mean, it's almost like a forest fire. It'll come through and it'll wipe out a lot of things and it will restart again. Like next year, there will be some of the giants will survive and then new little ones will begin. And, you know, again, some of them will grow up and last and some of them won't. It's just like the whole thing will begin again. Yep.
Sure. I mean, I'm starting to see a lot of, I mean, we're getting to that point now where people are wanting to try and get money out of this. That, like you say, when you saw with comic conventions, the way that they started out as very much a celebration of fandoms, and then it's a case of, okay, how can we make some money out of this? So you've got Galaxy Con that are doing their live streams, which you pay for, and you have that one-to-one experience. And then there's shows that are doing feeds where you pay for a subscription onto a Facebook live feed or a Twitch feed, and you only get a link, and it's just going to prove that's going to be proving interesting. Before I let David and Alistair get off, because I know that David's got small kid that he wants to get back to, so we'll get back to him. We'll wrap up certainly when it comes to virtual conventions and the way that it's affecting the comics community, especially small press. With all of these virtual events happening, David, do you think that there's going to be a lot of small press and indie publishers and creators that are going to get kind of like lost in the mix because they're not going to be able to get invited to these events, or they're not going to get the because obviously people are wanting to get the big names to attract faces and views to their feeds, but it's going to be awkward to get those kind of that attention from small press personalities, which we only really see if we are just strolling the tables.
I mean, I think I've seen a few like Kitchen Con and a few of the others that are just specifically only indie creators. But again, then you lose out on the big name attraction, drawing in that bigger audience. But I think what this is really going to do is actually set up a lot of the infrastructure that you need to have essentially a paid stream of some sort, which the smaller creators could probably benefit from, whether it's on Twitch, Discord, or whatever, having it so that you can actually create your own table. I mean, I know some friends right now as we speak who, or at least earlier this afternoon, who are doing their own live stream, essentially just them doing their own table at a convention for 3 hours, trying to sell their own stuff. And if you can do that and monetize it, then, you know, in this age where people are now growing more accustomed to doing these sorts of virtual things, then great. If, you know, it's opens up a whole new form of marketing for them, a whole new potential revenue stream. So I think there are some definite benefits from it. Whether they'll get invited to the bigger conventions, I think is the same answer as it was when it's in person.
I think it's also going to be interesting over the next couple of weeks, months, that the sales of high quality webcams and green screens and kind of slightly more professional setups are going to go through the roof. I think, if anything, it'll improve those reports that are coming into news broadcasts, because the moment that they can improve in quality, I will be a very happy boy indeed. But there we go.
I actually have a funny story about that. My friend of mine runs a podcast and streaming company, and he is responsible for the week in this country where you could not get green screens in a particular type of webcam. Because as this hit, they got like a lot of places, they got like a panic through Patreon, and he was like, okay, we've got 20 people in 20 locations. They have their addresses. 10 of them have web cameras. Let's go. And he successfully cleared out a small but perfectly formed chunk of Amazon's warehouse, and he is insufferable about that. It's kind of brilliant.
Oh, dear Lord. Okay. It's been a pleasure chatting to both you, David and Alistair. It was only going to be a short chat, and certainly kind of covering a lot of topics, but it's been a pleasure to get you on board. Just to cover up on a couple of things, we were talking about the unionization of creators. I mean, Into the Blue Mister is saying it can be done. Just look at CBLDF, which for those that don't know, it's the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. But that is very much more a support system for creators that are in trouble. Now it's a case of, let's see if we can actually have some form of protection across the board. Toby as well, the drunk filter has been turned off on Alistair. So yes, it's great to have you in full view. So there we go. Guys, thank you very much indeed for coming on. It's been a pleasure. We'd love to try and get you back on and maybe have a show just with the three of us and just really kind of hash out some of the stuff. We'll see perhaps once things have kind of calm down, and maybe we start seeing the end of this and coming out the other end of the tunnel.
Sounds great. Thank
Alistair,
you so much for having me back. Say the word.
No worries, no worries. Alistair, if you'd like to just explain to people where people can find you online and where you can be finding what you're up to.
Yeah, of course. If you go to pseudopod.org, you'll find the horror podcast I host. If you go to alistairstewart.com, that's my homepage, and there'll also be a sign-up link there for the Full Lid, which is my pop culture newsletter, which is email but good.
Excellent stuff. Thank you so much indeed for coming on. And David, I know that you've got something to pimp, so we'll let you have a little bit of time on this one. But no, you've got where can people find you online? And what's this new project you've got launching?
Well, so you can find a place to hang your cape at ap2hyc.com. That's AP, the number 2 HYC. You can find me on Twitter at ap2hyc_David. And you can find our brand new merch store, which just launched this week at ap2hyc.com/store. And I'm actually pimping some of our new merch right now. But I'm a selfless or shameless rather promoter of my own stuff, mostly because we shamelessly promote other comics that we love.
Fair enough and understandable. Guys, I just hope that we get to see you at a convention at some point soon, even if it is 2021, which is looking possible, but let's put it this way. I've been speaking to a number of people this week. I have fingers crossed that things like Thought Bubble, Lakes, etc.
Yeah.
Let's remain optimistic about this and let's see where we go. David, Alistair, thank you so much indeed for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Excellent stuff indeed. Right, which means it's now all yours, sir. The platform is all yours, Dave. Welcome along. Thank you very much indeed for coming on. The reason why you're here is primarily to talk about your new Kickstarter, because when we went twice a week with the show, because we weren't doing the news updates for conventions anymore, we were wanting to promote those projects that are out there. You have your new Kickstarter, which we will get into. But first, I think to kind of introduce everyone to you, because you are not just a triple threat or a quadruple threat. You are a man of many, many talents, sir. Ooh. So if go for it. If you want to just introduce yourself, who is B. Dave Walters?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Ooh, look at that. I'm spread out. I'm like, letting my wings out. B. Dave Walters. I think your audience might know me more from the comic side of things, where I wrote Dungeons and Dragons: A Dark and Wish, the official comic for IDW Publishing, with my co-creator Tess Fowler. I am currently writing Electropunk with my co-creator Jeff Wamister. That is a Kickstarter that's going on. I am on a number of streams: Vampire the Masquerade, LA by Night, Dungeons and Dragons, Silver and Steel. Then I am the Dungeon Master and creator of the Dark and Wish streaming series, because that is a transmedia project that's all woven together. Also, the trade paperback for Dungeons and Dragons: A Dark and Wish just came out. It's funny. He's like, I'm a shameless self-promoter. I was like, oh, yes, my brother. Yes. It's available now, the trade. You can get it at your local comic shop if you can find one. Otherwise, Comixology, Amazon. And then a number of other streams. Doing Roll in the Family, The Slumbering Forest for D&D. It's like I'm going through my mind here of all the streams. Long Beach by Night, which our final episode of season 2 is today at noon. And then I'm doing a series called One-on-One Shots, where I'm playing either D&D, Vampire, or something else with celebrities that are playing. I had Matthew Lillard 2 weeks ago, Jim Zub last week. Today is Miss Melee Damage. We're going to be playing some D&D. And I basically can be found saying words on camera wherever anyone will let me.
Well, I mean, Andrew Dickinson has got the statement in. Your catchphrase is "do the thing." You seem to be doing a lot of things. Is there a limit that you think you can stretch yourself?
You know, it's funny. I've been saying, if you remember in Batman Begins, when there's a scene when Bruce Wayne is putting his shirt on and he's all beat up, and Alfred says to him, "You're just a man. You have limits," and he's like, "Can't afford to know him," as he's putting his shirt on. I'm like, theoretically, there's some hard limit, and I feel like I will find it abruptly, and you guys will know when I know. But yeah, no, it's in addition to all of that streaming, I do. I run about 10 sessions of Patreon games every week for my patrons. So yeah, no, it's wall to wall, 7 days a week, man. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were talking, Alistair and David there, and certainly it was about the indie creators and self-publishing here in the UK, which they are both very interested in. And talking about the way that people are communicating and getting stuff done while they're currently in lockdown, where they perhaps didn't, or they weren't having the focus, or they weren't being given the opportunity to kind of concentrate on those projects. Are you finding yourself that you've ramped up while lockdowns happened, or is this where you've always been?
Actually, I want to take a step back. I was remiss that I skipped an important step of just saying thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. I definitely have ramped it up a lot. I always was fairly busy. I like to be productive, but I definitely realized that in this time in particular, to be quite honest, there's an altruistic reason and a practical reason. On the one hand, I stepped up with all the content production because I'm like, people are home, people need things to do, people are feeling isolated, constrained, bored, and so I wanted to be able to put out things that'll just help people get through that, because I mean, you can only watch reruns of Friends so many times. And that's the altruistic reason. And and the practical reason is, again, there's people have time on their hands. Like, this is an opportunity to have new people, see the streams I'm on, the gifted performers that I'm blessed to work with, some of the content that we've created together and the stories that we've been able to tell, and sort of cut through the noise, because life is so busy usually. Now we're in an unusual time in all of human history that kind of like society is desperately looking for something to do. So, and we're very proud of the things we've created. So if it's sort of like, hey, by the way, since you got some time on your hands, check this thing out. So it has just sort of worked in tandem there. I think the only real change is before in the before times, years ago, a lot of my current fans don't even realize that the thing that put me on the map is I actually wrote a ton of nonfiction. I used to be a nationally syndicated columnist, and I wrote about 500 articles and put out a lot of videos that were more in that type of content, that I've started creating that sort of stuff again. Because again, there's a need for it. So just trying to do what I can do to help people stay sane and happy during this unusual time. I think that's a word, an unusual time. Yeah,
that's an understatement, I think, is the word you're looking for. It's interesting that you're talking about some people on the other side, the receiving of the content. What we were talking about at the first half of the show is those generating the content, and I said that I think we're going to see a lot of COVID babies, a lot of projects and stuff that have been perhaps put on the back burner that they didn't have perhaps the focus on, or real life was kind of distracting them away from. Now that they've got the time at home to kind of knuckle down and take those off the shelf and look at them, I think we're going to see a lot more content like that. It's at what point then is it a case of too much? And we were already there with streaming content and all of the stuff that we were desperately trying to see on and like you say, people are going back to very familiar things, going back to see Friends again. But it's a case of how can people get eyeballs on all of this content that's coming out? I mean, how are you being able to kind of get people's attention?
Something that
sorry, oh
no, please, you it's give it to me. I'll take it. I will take tears and nuance. I've a point that I've made many times is, in the past, we'll say 10 years ago, 10-ish years ago, definitely 20 years ago, there was basically 30 gatekeepers that controlled all of entertainment. If you didn't get signed to be a movie star or an actor or a musician, and just one of these people that didn't just sort of give you the thumbs up, it was not going to happen. I mean, not counting eking out like some sort of existence on the indie circuit. Like, for the most part, you were not going to be a star unless certain people said you. The internet democratized all of that. The internet did away with all of the gatekeepers, gave everybody an equal shot, and while it gave everybody the opportunity to speak their truth and create their art and do what they loved, it also gave it to everyone else. So where it no longer became an option about access, it became about being heard over the noise. The simple answer is, honestly, the majority of people aren't going to have a huge following and aren't going to have millions and millions of people that love what they do. But the good news is you don't have to. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of 1,000 loyal fans. I did not make this up, dear internet, so feel free to Google it and read it.
Try heading for dozens, and I think I know where you're going.
Dozens and the dozens of the Rocks fans. The concept of 1,000 loyal fans is basically you don't need millions of people. You need about 1,000 people that consume anything that you put out. And you can build a sustainable career about that. If you Google it, it's like written in detail, but it's true. So my advice to content creators is don't even try to go after millions and millions of people, because you actually cannot control that. What you can control, create the best thing that you can with the most heart that you can. You were mentioning production value when you were coming up. Yes, production value is important. Sound is the most important thing. A lot of times people don't realize that, but every single poll, every time, people always say hearing it is the most important thing, because people don't always sit down and watch. A lot of people are mom watching and multitasking when they're doing things. And right now, at this exact second, society is fairly forgiving about the overall video quality. Just produce something that you love, produce something that you would want to consume, that you care about, because somebody out there also cares about it too. And I can tell you, I'm lucky to know I'm on a successful stream with LA by Night. I know all the players in the bigger streams out there. I'm getting a name dropping, although normally I would, because again, shameless self-promoter. But I will just tell you all, a lot of the most successful people in the streaming business, they don't even know why everybody loves what they love. They don't even know what the secret sauce is. They just keep showing up and doing the best thing that they can do from the heart. And people know it resonates. And then, the rest of it takes care of itself.
Well, I mean, the group that we broadcast to, I mean, we started off as it was a comic convention podcast. It was about San Diego Comic Con in particular, but it's kind of evolved over time. But it's very much that dedicated fandom that will go to events. So I think I kind of speak to, and I'm part of a community that will travel thousands of miles to view and to consume content, and we will go to many lengths. We were talking earlier about the fact that when the comic book stores open, even with that threat of infection still lingering in the background, we will be there battering on the doors, because we want to embrace and grab this content, and we want to see and ingest it all as best we can. It's very interesting that the audiences that you talk to, it's all about that passion and that real kind of that circulation of community that comes together when it comes to fandoms. I'm curious about your attending of Comic-Cons when it comes to this year, which is a complete wash, and it's looking like the rest of the year is looking particularly dire. How hard have you been hit by the inability to actually interact with your audience face to face?
So it's weird, because I'm like the super extrovert. Like I know that's weird. It doesn't seem like it, but like last son of Krypton. Like at Comic-Con, when you have those moments when you're out in front of the convention center and there's just a sea of humanity everywhere you can look. Like 200,000 people. There's just humans. I love that. It's like my Emperor Palpatine unlimited power is there within those environments. I live for that stuff. I think I've been lucky because both through streaming and through my Patreon games, which I already was doing online, I was already doing remotely, I still get to connect with different people and interact with people. And so that has helped me stay sane, essentially. So it has been, in the grand scheme of things, fairly harmless for me. In that respect, because I kind of have my lifeline still going, if that makes sense. And I think even the cons, and you're right, some of most of them are canceled. Some of the ones later in the year are still setting up arrangements, progressing under this assumption that they're going to go. But I think what they're going to find, honestly, I don't want to jinx it, is that a lot of them, even if they try and run, let's say, well, we'll go August-ish, September-ish, the third quarter of the year. even if they try and put on the big event, a lot of people aren't going to go. Like a lot of people aren't necessarily wanting to be with thousands of people in a room where most people get con crud after a con anyway. So I think even the ones that happen are going to have very low participation. And honestly, I think it's going to be a couple of years before it kind of builds back up again. It will. I mean, we will see the San Diego Comic-Con, sea of humanity as far as the eye can see again. Maybe by next year. I don't know. I think if by next year, if there's,
I'm really curious to see how it's going to work, because I mean,
it's going to be 2 or 3.
I missed out on this year.
Yeah.
I missed out on this year because the idea was that we were going to miss out on 2020, save some money. 2019. Sorry, we didn't go to 2019. Save some money, go to more UK and European cons, and save up and make 2020 the big blowout. At which point, obviously, that's gone the way of the dodo. So we're now looking at 2021. We're looking at going from the UK. It's whether, as international travelers, that's going to be even viable. I think, like you say, it's just going to be. I think the landscape is just going to be so different once all of the dust has settled. We've got 1 or 2 questions. Go on. You were about to say.
No, I was just going to say, and again, unfortunately, some of the vendors, some of the players, some of the fixtures, may not last through this, but new ones will emerge, and it will keep moving. Yep.
Absolutely. We've got Andrew Dickinson. I think this is more as a personal thing for the pair of us. Both you and yourself and Leonard are larger than the average human. I'm guessing that he's talking about height, but he could be talking girth. It's okay. Have you any problems convincing people to find out you are very approachable? I smile a lot.
It's that. Well, I guess to convert this into not matrix numbers or matrix numbers. Also that I am 2.05 meters and 120 kilos. So yes, I'm a big dude. Smiling is the key, honestly. Yeah, it's smiling. That's if you notice whenever I make eye contact with people, I make a point to smile because I do think something in their reptile brain is like he's going to kill and eat me, which served me well when I was a bodyguard because I can very much put on my aura of menace, like do not come near me. So it's like it can switch it on and off like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Actually, I do want to just say one other thing to a previous point you made about those coronavirus babies of the projects that are coming out.
Sure.
That's kind of the gospel I've been preaching lately, in the sense that, and I don't want to make light of the fact that now is a very difficult and stressful time for a lot of people. A lot of human beings are suffering. We have lost people. We're getting to the point that a lot of us are starting to know someone that we've lost to COVID-19. And it has been a tremendous struggle for some people, especially pending the industries they're in. So I don't want to make light of the fact that it is incredibly difficult for a lot of people. However, for a lot of us, we have time on our hands that we never had before. And it is when life restarts, when we get back in, when we have to start sitting in rush hour traffic again in meetings and working 60 hours a week and having to get up that much earlier and all of that, there is a certain element of the simplicity of this time that we will miss. And so I very much encourage people to find that story that you were working on, that novel, that painting, that online tutorial you wanted to do, and start chipping away at it every day, because you will never have more time to work on it than this. Like, yes, it is stressful, but like there will just be different stress. Like you will never have more time to work on a thing than now. So if there's that thing that's in the drawer, do work on it. Although I will throw you a curveball there, believe it or not. I think if you've got something that has been that story that has just sort of been tickling your noodle for like 2 years and you've never done it, believe it or not, that's not the project right now. If that was your Harry Potter, you'd have done it already. Like go for something that like maybe the last 3 to 6 months, you started thinking about something. Pick that one, knock that one out. And then maybe the opus that was bubbling in the back of your brain, pull that one out. Because I definitely got stories that, that I've intended to write for 10 years. But the things that are really hot, lean into that. Finish it. Just get something done. Because the best thing you write the worst thing you write will always be better than the best thing you did not write.
Very good points indeed. And not only that, but we'll use that as a jumping off point into your latest project. So we'll get into that in a second. A couple of comments first, though. We've got Toby, who's jumped in, talking about your streams. It must be a trip playing D&D with Matthew Serial Killer Lillard. So yeah, I can imagine that would be something special. Andrew, so do you think streaming is very genie in a bottle? You don't know it will work until you put it out there. Yeah, absolutely. It's a case of you can't know until it's done. Absolutely. Into the Blue Mister, spot on with the con predictions, Dave. Even if they do open up, people are going to be very wary about attending. And yeah, Andrew is talking about his personal connection and how COVID has affected him. I lost one of my best mates and D&D player for the last 35 years. The group has to decide if the campaigns keep going, as interacting with the dwarf cleric is going to be too much. Wow.
You know,
that's going to be hard.
I'm not here to tell you guys how to process your grief. Innately, any way that you do that is valid. I just can say, I guarantee you, your bro wouldn't have wanted to stop the game over him.
Very good point. Very good point indeed. As someone who's currently living in a COVID house, I think it's the isolation which proves most challenging, but it's things like this and interacting with people that is allowing me to feel part of the community and feeling part and connected with the world again. So I think that's where I am at this point.
You know, I think what people realize is, or don't always realize, is you got to remember, what is the worst punishment we inflict on the worst human beings? Solitary confinement. You know, like the thing we did to you're in a supermax prison somewhere. What's the worst thing we can do to you? Make you go be by yourself. You know, that's human beings aren't wired for this, for prolonged periods of isolation. So however you're feeling is innately valid. Like this has never happened ever since, I mean, obviously there's been times of quarantine in human history, but I mean, it's during the Spanish flu or the Black Plague or whatever, like they didn't have access to the information that we've got, to the technological infrastructure that we've got. That literally everyone had to go and sit and be inside and like not know. So no one knows what is a healthy response. No one knows, you know, how you should feel. I mean, however you feel is fine. Nothing's wrong with you. This is weird. This is freaky. No one knows, you know, what the right reaction is. So, you know, cut yourself a break. And like you just said, make sure, if those of you out there, stay connected to people, keep talking to people. Feel free to admit that when you're having trouble. Feel free to admit when you're in pain, because I guarantee you, like, everybody's going through it, but we will all get through it together. Just keep leaning on each other. We'll make it.
Absolutely. But I mean, Michael P is quite right in saying amen and preach. There you go. You're quite right, sir. Congratulations on articulating, pretty much exactly what needs to be said. Well done. But okay, let's talk about the new project that you've got on the cards when it comes to your Kickstarter, which I'm going to bring up on screen because it's just I'm really liking the look of this thing. This is just amazing. Electropunk, children of the future. Yeah, this is a project which, I mean, it's a Kickstarter that's up and running right now. I mean, if I just turn to the page, and we will be bringing the page up on the screen very shortly indeed, but we're talking 400 backers, 20 days to go. It's 68% of its goal at the moment, which is very impressive. It's on track to do what it needs to do, but I mean, it's just such a brilliant looking project, and we are going to bring up some artwork of it. I mean, how long has this been kind of on the cards? How long have you been putting this together?
Oh, Jeff and I, Jeff Wamister, my co-creator, and I have literally been picking at this, I think, properly for about 6 years now. It started out as we just sort of like started chatting at a 4th of July picnic in 2013 and just started spitballing ideas. Then at the exact same 4th of July picnic in 2014, we were like, no, we should start doing this. And that's when we started stockpiling art, stockpiling scripts. He and I are both freelancers. So we both, our time would sync up where we could like work on it. And then we both get drawn away to do something else, and our time would sync up to work with it. And a strange thing happened, because we wanted to do it at different times, and again, just life would get in the way and we couldn't see it through. And I think it would have been in February there was one night in this, hand to God, this happened. Something woke me up like the freaking ghost of Christmas future here from A Christmas Story. And was like, do it now, do it now, do it right now. And I was like, okay, all right. And I called him the next day, and we've just been pushing. And I think the thing that we've gone through the most, and the reason why it looks the way it looks, is Jeff is not just a master artist, but he's a perfectionist. He's probably redesigned Ruthie and Chuck like 6 times in the times that we've been telling these stories. So he went through, completely redesigned the characters, redesigned their look, redesigned their armor, redesigned the world, came up with all these like new artistic techniques to like really capture the visual aesthetic that he was after. And we were just ready to put it out to the world. And, you know, here it is. That's we're very proud of it, what we've been able to create.
I mean, I'm putting artwork up on the screen at the moment, and it's this real rich, dynamic, very I mean, there's a lot of energy and a lot of momentum on the pages that I'm putting up, and certainly the way that it's looking is just fantastic. If you could give us the elevator pitch of the story.
I will just say, that is Spring Heel Jack there, by the way, you know, for since we're talking to people from the UK, that's who they're after in this first story. The simple solution is in the real world, Nikola Tesla had a lab that burned down that he said set his work back 50 years. That did really happen. In the world of electropunk, that did not occur. So by the time our story starts in 1910, he's one of the wealthiest and most influential people in the world. And as a byproduct of his work with this high technology, one of the things that he realized is monsters are real. There are things that go bump in the night, in that the human race needed somebody to protect them. So he raised his niece and nephew, Ruthie and Chuck, to become humanity's sword and shield. So he created these suits of powered armor for them where they also look like monsters to go out and fight and save the world. Basically, they are a brother and sister. They are twins. They are heroes. They love each other. They have a good time. They go through the absolute ringer, but they never give up. And I think that is what people who have read the stories, that's what they like about them so much, that they're tenacious, they're having a good time, and they get put in some crazy and unusual situations that I think you will enjoy.
When it comes to this particular Kickstarter, why did you, I mean, we were talking about this earlier, that this is a very difficult time to launch something like this, when people are struggling perhaps financially, because at the end of the day, it's the revenue's not coming in, they're not earning, and it's very difficult to justify perhaps putting money onto a creative endeavor when they are wanting to try and put food in the shelves, in their pantry. What's been the, I mean, why do you feel that now is the time to launch something like this?
You know, of course, I would always say, you know, secure your own oxygen first. Of course, take care of whatever you have to do before, you know, engaging in the luxuries. I would say that's true all the time, of course. We looked at it, and although the numbers were saying the numbers of new Kickstarters were down, the actual funding rates of Kickstarters stayed level. And, you know, we just figured we just had to test it, because on the one hand, yes, we didn't know if how the economic struggles were going to impact people, but we also didn't necessarily know how like boredom and desperately looking for something new was going to impact people. I think we just planted the flag that now was the time. Again, the ball was rolling too far. And quite frankly, I think even though we were a ways into the development when the whole COVID crisis hit, but even if we'd pulled the plug on it, when do we start it? 6 months from now? Will it be any different? A year from now? Will it be any different? Once it is different, will there just be a steamroll of all the people that have been doing these COVID babies, and there'll be so much competition? So we didn't know, you know, we just decided now was the time to shoot our shot. And in keeping again with my freaking Ghost of Christmas Future thing that told me to do it now, I did it now.
Fair enough. I mean, it looks incredible, and yeah, you're definitely going to get so much attention purely off the, I mean, the world building. But this is something you're very much well known for. I mean, just to kind of blow a little bit of smoke up your ass, if you don't mind, I'm a massive Dark Wish fan. I came in via, because while I did play D&D as a kid, I haven't been a player for a while, but I came in via Tess Fowler, who I'm a huge fan of, and she did this incredible work on Dark Wish as a book, and that is what you read your stories, you recognize that that's what you do. You create these incredible worlds. So you've got this fantastic cast list as well, of which we're seeing on screen. But the actual book itself, it's looking like you've got so much that you're adding to it, especially with the stretch goals and everything else.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the compliment. Also, shout out to Tess Fowler, my homie. And she is the first stretch goal, by the way, is electropunk art from Tess Fowler. So if we get to 45, that is the first thing that we unlock. Is something from her there. So, you know, hopefully we'll make it. We'll push to the very last second. Yeah, it's been a great process. And I think working on A Dark Wish was especially important to me because I've spent hundreds, thousands of hours playing D&D and in the Forgotten Realms and in dreaming in those worlds and in those spaces. And so getting to add something, getting to add a link to the continuity of that world was just something beautiful for me that I was very blessed to do. And yes, now we have this whole new world that is, I think, a time that a lot of times stories don't get told in, or at least don't get told in this aesthetic of them basically being turn of the century superheroes. And there is a lot planned, a lot already written of what happens to these characters and where they go and what they do. And I like to weave in A Dark Wish, I wove in so much of the history and mythology of the Forgotten Realms, as that story is very much my love letter to Dungeons and Dragons and a love letter to the Forgotten Realms. In this, I was able to weave in so much of the real world. Again, that is Spring Hill Jack, but almost every element of the mythology of Spring Hill Jack is in that story of who he is and why he's doing what he's doing and how they find him and how they defeat him. Spoiler alert, the heroes win. I love that because the type of stories that I like to tell, because again, I like to give people an opportunity to go on a journey and get lost in something. And I think whenever you can go in there and enjoy something and then come back afterwards and be like, oh, that was real. Oh, that's a place. Oh, that's a person. Oh, wow. It just adds a layer of like depth and richness to it that is otherwise lacking and can often make you feel more connected to something and more connected to the world. It's the same way with Harry Potter. People go to the train station where they get on the train to Hogwarts. You know, it's that transition of you're like, oh, it's here. The fact that this is real makes all of it a little more real. And I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's why I wanted to do it that way. So
Sure.
It's been great. Yeah.
I mean, Into the Blue Mister is definitely echoing my feelings on it. Any story that has Tesla in it is a winner with me. I mean, yeah, a film, The Prestige, is one of my favorites. But Tesla fan. Is Atomic Robo an influence? Asks Into the Blue Mister.
It wasn't for me. I don't know if it was for Jeff, but I cannot recall specifically talking about Atomic Robo. I think we've been influenced more by animation, especially television animation, because that's Jeff's background. He was, and I apologize if I misstate any of his credits here. He'll like burst into flames. He's a very humble guy. He's just like, no, don't give me too much credit. He did character designs on a lot of the Marvel superheroes cartoons from a few years ago, like Earth's Mightiest Heroes and things like that, and then became a director for the Guardians of the Galaxy animated series. He's directing movies for Warner Brothers now. So it so happens our styles mesh well, because when I write, I see a scene in my mind and then I describe the scene. He, being a visual storyteller, can take my like hodgepodge mishmash and then make it look like that, which is why you've got that action on the page of Spring Hill Jack leaping over the car and then Chuck vaulting over the car, because that's how it is in my head. And if you've ever worked with a collaborator, by the way, one of the most beautiful things is when you can express a vision and then they actually give it back to you, and even more, give it back better than you thought, which both Tess and Jeff did that, where I was like, here's the thing I think was dope. And they're like, but what if it were way more dope? And I'm like, what? Yeah, and it's wild. It is wild to even have the chance to do these things at all, and tell these stories. And again, I'm just so in love with Ruthie and Chuck and the Colonel and Tesla and just because to me they're alive, to me they're friends, to me I understand them and how they think and how they feel because they've lived in my head for so long. So being able to get that out and share it is very exciting.
You could tell by how animated you are about it. I mean, it's clearly a story that is very much not just under your skin, but it's coming out your pores, which is fantastic. Toby, Forgotten Realms is D&D life. Yeah, that's what I played. That's what I played as a kid. Andrew Dickinson, you tweeted about Doctor Who and a hidden future Doctor suggested by Moffat, and now a Dalek T. I take it Doctor Who is a big thing in the Walters universe. This
was a double dose. Again, one, I wanted to show proper respect to an Englishman here, and also the Daleks are supreme. So that's why I had to wear my Dalek shirt here. Yes, I was a relatively late adopter to Doctor Who. I mean, I think I didn't get on board till like 2012, which, don't get me wrong, was still 8 years ago. But a ways into the resurgence before I jumped on the train. And then have been going ever since. Yeah, it's don't get me talking about it because I'll get freaking emotional. So I'm saying, but I will try to paraphrase. It was something Moffat said around the 50th, and holy crap, I really ain't gonna get emotional about it. No, I'm not. Hang on. Something Moffat said around the 50th anniversary, that he's like, when they created that character back in the day, it was actually such a bold statement to make him a doctor, a healer, a problem solver, to give him 2 hearts because he cares twice as much, to give him a sonic screwdriver, a tool to fix things, to be someone who was there to try and always make things better and not just be a kick in the door and kill everybody type. Although, I mean, I guess if we're being honest, the doctors killed lots of people, but you know what I mean? It's again, to be able to, in something that I heard Jack Harkness, whose name eludes me because apparently I can't cry and refer to names at the exact same time. He made the point that John Barrowman, sorry internet, John Barrowman, all praise be due to him, made the comment that Doctor Who is not about the Doctor. Doctor Who's about the companion, because the companion is you. And you're taking that trip with him. Back to the previous point that's to me, that is the essence of storytelling, to take people on a journey. It just so happens in Doctor Who that a madman with a box literally grabs your hand and tells you to run, and you go. And I will tell you this last thing, not to get too lost in this, because I will spend the rest of the day talking about freaking Doctor Who. The thing that finally sold me on giving the show a chance was the season, Matt Smith's season with the dinosaurs on a spaceship that I think was 8. I don't know. Again, wow. I apologize, internet. But they were running the commercials on the BBC. And there's the scene where the door opens and the Doctor sees the dinosaur, because it was the Impossible Astronaut season. So all kinds of crazy stuff was happening. But the door opens and he says, "Dinosaurs on a spaceship," and he just seemed so excited about it. And the fact that he seemed excited about it made me excited about it. So I was like, okay, let's see what the kids are on about. And then the rest was kind of history. Also, the Daleks are supreme.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of my favorite moments when it comes to Doctor Who, I mean, it's very similar to that, is that moment when he would come into a scenario and you would see some kind of horrifying or slightly strange scenario in front of him, and the companion instantly would make the human reaction of, and then the Doctor would go in, right, okay, this is interesting. This is, okay, I'm going to come in and doesn't judge, and it just takes it and takes a scenario and, this is, okay, that's cool, that's interesting. and it kind of like inspires the companion, and that's always what the show's about. Absolutely.
Never cruel or cowardly.
Very quickly. Damn right. In returning to Electropunk very quickly, you got Andrew Dickinson who's saying, "Well, I'm back of fun, and therefore an error message." At which point, Englishman, I thought error was. And Andrew English is no, an unauthorized error. I can live with that. About coming on board. Andrew Dixon, so when is the RGP game? RGP game of the comic coming out? Are you thinking further outside of the... Yeah.
Well, it's...
I thought he typed
no, he meant RPG. Also, thank you for becoming a backer. It is tied into one of the stretch goals. I don't know if we're gonna make that. If we don't, and it funds, then I'll revisit it down the road, because I'm on the writing team for Werewolf, the Werewolf W5 we're calling it right now. So I'm getting more and more gaming credits all the time. So it's I would definitely like to do it. I'll put it like that. I would definitely love to do it.
Excellent stuff. Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how the project goes, how the Kickstarter goes. I mean, it's going very well from what I can see on the screen. I mean, like I say, we've got, if we go to the very top of the Kickstarter, it's in English. Oh, sorry about that, but it's a £24,000 goal. It's 16.5. It's 69% of its goal. Nice.
Yeah.
So it's on, and it's looking great to see. It's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. I am going to stop that screen. I'm going to put this screen back on because it does have the graphic for the actual URL as well. So let's get everyone heading in this direction. It is Electropunk on Kickstarter, projects/Electropunk/Electropunk-of-the-future. So there you go. That's the URL.
If you go to Kickstarter and you just type in Electropunk, you'll find it. But yes, thank you for the proper pinky up, gentlemanly URL there. Thank you.
Do my best. Dave, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for coming on, and all the best with the project, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You have a great one.
You too. And I hope we can get you back on and talking once all the dust is settled.
Anytime. I'm always here to nerd out about comics, this project, D&D, Doctor Who, cons, panels, because that is what I love to do. Yeah, like I said, this Wednesday, Jasper's Game Day. That's the next digital con that we're doing. So check it out. We'll be doing panels. We'll be doing, I don't think I'm doing any panels, but we'll do a live game in the stream. They were raffling seats to play with Matthew Lillard, again, to mention him. Chris Perkins, play with me. So yeah, check it out. Jasper's Game Day, and we'll see you there. And I'm jumping off of here to go play some D&D with Melee Damage at 1 Pacific on twitch.tv/Q Times. And we did Jim Zub last week for your audience, and then 2 weeks before that was Matthew Lillard. Those ones are both up on YouTube.
Excellent. Well, one last time, if you just want to say where people can find you online and what you're up to.
I'm at B Dave Walters everywhere. You can find me. I think I'm most active on Twitter. I do a ton of streams. The schedule is across the top. I also run games on Patreon. So if you want to play Dungeons and Dragons, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf Mage, Changeling, even Battlelords, my beloved Battlelords, hit me up, patreon.com/B Dave Walters. And we have live 24-hour Discord role play with people from all over the world. So we'd love to have you.
Excellent stuff. We will do we'll play the video as well from the Kickstarter page at the very end of this video, just to once again push people towards that campaign. All the best to it, and Dave, thank you very much indeed.
Can I just say one last thing before I drop off? Again, whatever you're thinking about creating, do it. If you're thinking about running a stream, if you're thinking about writing a book, drawing a picture, just do it. Do it. Don't wait. You don't need permission. Start where you are, what you got, what you have, make it happen. Just do the thing. You'll be glad you did. Yep.
And in this current landscape as well, it doesn't matter what you're wearing when you do it.
That's true. I reject pants and all the other lies of the before times. Yes.
I'm not standing up. I don't want this video to be taken down, so we'll leave it where it is. There you go.
Okay.
Dave, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care. Take care. Excellent stuff. We will showcase that video. We'll put that on the end of the stream, and do check it out because it is a one hell of a thing. And yeah, that's the stream right there. Kickstarter.com/projects/electropunk Children of the Future. Do check it out. Right. The other thing that we usually do on the show is, as well as featuring a Kickstarter, a crowdfund of a spotlight for that, we also want to do our best to showcase the very best in artwork that's currently available on social media out. For this is going to serve two purposes. Number one is going to showcase a guest that we've got coming up on the show later on in the month, but also the work that he's putting up online. We are talking, of course, about Bill Sienkiewicz. My word, Bill has been very busy and very prolific with putting stuff up out online. He's also contributed to the Jim Lee efforts, raising money on his eBay sketch sales. I'll showcase that artwork in a bit, but I just wanted to point you in the direction of his Twitter and his Instagram, because they are well worth checking out. Bill has just been, I mean, it's Bill Sienkiewicz. I mean, the artwork that he puts out is just gorgeous. Admittedly, there are some moments when it really hits you hard in the heart, because he does put up artwork of people who we have lost. And obviously in the current climate, we are losing a lot. And over the last couple of years, it's felt like we've lost someone every other week. And Bill has just put out these incredible tributes to these fantastic people, these celebrities, these personalities that we know and love. And he really does kind of capture something of them and put them onto the page. It's just beautiful to see. Brian Dennehy there and Honor Blackman, which is just a stunning piece. I mean, I often wonder if some of it is in fact taken and it's photoshopped and he's just kind of applying a filter of some description, but he's clearly not. It's all in the art. It's all coming out of his artwork, and it's just absolutely beautiful, which is where we are going to bring this piece into light. Like I say, this is the one that he's currently selling on eBay, or Jim Lee is currently selling on eBay, raising money for comic retailers. And he's just Jim's doing an amazing job, but he's roping in some incredible artists, and Bill is the one that he's gone for, putting this fantastic Bizarro Superman piece up. That went up, I believe, yesterday, so it is currently available. I'm rather honored that I put the first bid in of $500, knowing damn well that I was never going to win it. I was thinking about putting something like 5,000 up, just to kind of see, just to kind of be bold, knowing damn well that if it doesn't go 5 figures, I'll be stunned. But just in case I wasn't that brave. But no, I'm honored to be the first person to put some money into the pot, but it is going to go for some big money, and quite right too, because it's Bill Sienkiewicz. It's just absolutely incredible. Bill is going to be coming on the Hangout. Yes, he is. We've got ourselves a date for that. Let me just see if I can bring this up on screen. Have I got that date? Where's the dates? Oh, I thought I had it on a thing that I could just put up. Maybe is it there? No, it's not. Okay. Basically, we are going to be talking to Bill Sienkiewicz on I believe it's the 13th. Let me just bring up my my calendar. It's the 13th. It's the Wednesday. Basically, in a week and a half's time, Bill Sienkiewicz is penciled to be on the show. I say penciled, and it's not to just kind of tease it that he should be coming on, but he's not. As it happens, he was scheduled to be moving house this summer. It was going to be this month and next when he was going to into his new abode. Obviously, with lockdown, he hasn't been able to move. However, he's hoping that the lockdown is going to be released over the course of the next week or so he can start moving into his house. So it is more a case of him being available. So who knows? Dan Berry has just put something up on the screen, which quite frankly shocks me. The current bid for that Bizarro piece is $4,300. Which shocks me. I mean, it says him. I'm surprised at. You're surprised. I thought that would have been into the 5 figures already. I thought, yeah, who knows? I mean, there's time yet. There's time, and there's other bids that are going through and other things that they're selling. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. But there we go. Seriously, Leonard, I spend the whole episode with Bill. I'm sure there'll be hundreds of questions. Yeah, I've actually invited somebody else on that show. Basically, and having the pair of them talk. We'll see if that works. Trust me, I know that sounds weird to say that we would share Bill Sienkiewicz with somebody else, but if I got the other person on as well, I would just step out of the way and let them talk. I think it would be an interesting conversation. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. But still, if we just get the chance to talk to Bill Sienkiewicz on his own, I think it'd be something special. But let's see where we go with that. Basically, if you do want to check out his social media, do it, because he's constantly putting up some amazing artwork. I mean, I've got to put that back up on the screen. That Honor Blackman is just gorgeous. Bill Sienkiewicz, twitter.com/Sienkiewicz. Basically explaining to people that it's not the hardest name in the world to remember. And Instagram, that Polish guy, just absolutely amazing. Solicitor Smeg, I feel it's because of the renaissance we've had in comments, we've had a lot of greats over a short span, so it now just feels sad, but it's really because they were similar in age. Yeah. So let me guess, it's Alex Ross. No. I think Into the Blue Mystery is making a slight comment there. Me and Alex still haven't made patched up. We still haven't made friends, even though I'm a massive fan of his work. Though it looks like me and him are not going to be on speaking terms anytime soon. Who knows? But there we go. It's our artist of the week. It's our cup of tea, artist cup of tea, Bill Sienkiewicz. Check out his work, and of course, tune in on Wednesday the 13th. It's going to be a hell of a show. So there we go. That has been our show for today. It's been a pleasure to talk to. I mean, it's an hour and a half, and I'm sorry if we stretched into your Sunday evening, Sunday morning, but we'll let you get off and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much indeed to Alastair and to David at the beginning of the show to talk about comics and independent creators and how things are going for them at the moment. So Lister of Smeg, what happened between you and Alex Ross? Okay, I'll explain very, very quickly, but I'll just finish this off. Thank you very much indeed to those two. Thank you very much indeed to B. Dave Walters for coming on. Do go and check out Electropunk, Children of the Future on Kickstarter. Well worth checking out, and we'll play that video in a second. The story between me and Alex Ross. Alex Ross has, over the last 5-6 years, been learning how to use Photoshop and has been putting his artwork on the sides of buildings in San Diego and in New York, leading up to San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, other conventions. And the photoshopping has not been fantastic, but he has been basically told his fans that keep your eyes out, because I've been putting my artwork on the sides of buildings as building wraps. And I called him out on it and said, that's a bit cheeky, saying that, you know, you've put your Justice League New Frontier piece up on the side of the Marriott, and it's not. I think you're misleading people. And I kind of got slapped down, understandably, especially considering that he started to get rather good on his photoshopping skills and did it on the side of a trolley wrap, at which point I really went, dude, I don't think you should mislead your followers like that. And one of my followers actually works for the MTS in San Diego, and just went, yeah, we can sue you for that. Because yeah, that's misleading about our particular transport. You can't do that. So yeah, me and Alex kind of fell out because I called him out on something I felt that he shouldn't be doing. But there we go. What can you do? Right. Thank you very much indeed for coming on to my guests. Thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Like I say, some great guests on the way, and really looking forward to bringing all of those guests throughout the course of May, including the likes of who else have we got? We've got ourselves Russ Burlingame from comicbook.com. He's going to be joining us. We've got ourselves who else? Donny Cates and Megan Hutchinson. Looking forward to talking to them. And of course, we do have our San Diego Comic-Con special, which we have definitely got confirmed Aaron Neighbors, and we've definitely got confirmed Rob Sarkowicz. Yet to find out about Alyssa. She has been messaging me throughout the course of the show, so fingers crossed that we're going to have Alyssa on as well. We'll see what happens. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Stay safe. Stay clean. Wash your hands. And stay home if you can. And I hope that we will all see each other on the other side. Take care. And let me just restart this window and basically show you this video to wrap up. Go check out kickstarter.com/projects/Electropunk, Electropunk Children of the Future. From me to you, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.